Okay, so the number one problem that you're going to face as a middle school coach is parents who have low awareness of the things going on and whose main concern is how come Bobby isn't starting, and if Bobby isn't not only starting but if Bobby's on the sideline, right? Like they'll say, Bobby's not as good as Jimmy, but he's just as good as Tommy. So, they're gonna call you, email you, and say, how come Bobby's not playing? And so, on a deeper level, I think the only thing that you need to do at your meeting of expectations is start to communicate your plan for the season with the parents, right? Because if the parents see that you have like a legitimate plan with the players, if you say, it's like, this is the plan, this is how you can help, this is what I don't want you to do, and this is how I'm going to, like, it's youth soccer. It's like, you could be, there's an art to it, but on a basic level, it's, if you could just show up and show these parents what your plan is for these players in a simple way, and you could start to teach them what you wish they would show up with. And so, okay, what do I mean by that? There's one coach I had in particular. His name is Tom Turnbull, and he did the same skills training routine every practice. And so when I coached middle school boys at Narragansett Pier Middle School in Narragansett, Rhode Island, we did the same thing every practice. It was ball mastery. You could search Cover Coaching, Coerver, right? 10 to 15 minutes of ball mastery, which led into 10 to 15 minutes of dribbling sequences. What's a dribbling sequence? A dribbling sequence is a rhythmic pattern that helps players be more relaxed with the ball, right? It helps players not think about dribbling, right? They did a brain scan of Neymar while he was dribbling, and the brain wasn't lit up at all. It was the opposite of what they expected. And so after I did 10 to 15 minutes of ball mastery with the players, I would have them do 2 laps around our small field doing this sequence. Outside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Outside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Outside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Right, it's just a pattern. And so it helps them develop their awareness. And so you want to have them, like, you should hear them say the sequence out loud as they're doing the laps around the field, right? So it's 10 to 15 minutes of ball mastery, 10 to 15 minutes of dribbling sequences, and then it's 10 to 15 minutes of the barrel game. What's the barrel game? The barrel game is you have the whole team have a ball in their hands, and they're encircled around a target. It could be a trash bin, a barrel, a bucket, a vessel, anything that they can aim at. And so when they encircle this target, the object of the game is to improve their juggling while they're moving forward, right? It's juggling with forward ambulation, moving forward. And so the way that a lot of players make it hard for themselves to not only learn juggling, but to learn this game is that they start at the ball on the ground, right? And so the challenge isn't the juggling game. The challenge is that they set themselves up for failure, right? A lot of players, they haven't developed the ability to flick the ball up. And so they get frustrated because they can't flick the ball up, which leads to frustration. So what I would do is I would have between 20 to 30 players, maybe 35 players, circle a landscaper's barrel, and I would have them go through the progression, right? So it's right foot with a bounce. Looks like this. Goes right foot with a bounce, left foot with a bounce, alternating feet with a bounce, right thigh with or without a bounce, left thigh with or without a bounce, alternating thighs with or without a bounce, and then lastly, any part of the body you want with or without a bounce. So it can look like this. And then lastly, it's 1v1 to cones. 1v1 to cones, right? So let's say you have, it's 1v1 to cones, like 5-minute games, and you switch opponents 3 times. And so that's the whole practice. That's the whole practice session. And for the 1v1 to cones, it might behoove you, right? You might want to invest in a set of cheap cones, tall cones, the ones you can knock over, right? Because you could use the sideline as a guide. You set up cones a couple yards apart, and then a few yards away, you set up cones that mirror the cones here. So you're just making a grid, right? You're making like some 1v1 games. And so it's 15 minutes of ball mastery, 15 minutes of dribbling sequences, 15 minutes of barrel games, give or take, and then 1v1 to cones, right? You could say, 5-minute games, and you have them switch opponents 3 times. And so why this is so effective is because it helps players improve in the fundamentals, right? Ball mastery, being relaxed while dribbling on the field, juggling towards a target, and then 1v1 attacking and defending. If you spend your practices focusing on these things, you're gonna see a huge improvement in your players at the end of the season, right? Because like most middle school coaches, a lot of their focus is, winning games. They're focused on satisfying the demands of the parents, right? They're trying to appease the parents whose kids they're coaching. But what you really want to do is show the parents, this is the plan, right? This is how I'm going to focus on improving your sons and daughters every day. And if you can embrace this, right? If I teach you this, then you can help them when they're at home. And so these are simple games, simple skills and drills that the parents could play with their kids. And so why this is important is because not a lot of parents understand the framework, right? Like a lot of parents don't know how to help their kids improve. Like most parents aren't soccer skills and drills trainers or coaches. So just by showing them this simple format, ball mastery, right? Cover, COERVER, coaching. Ball mastery, dribbling sequences, barrel game, and 1v1 to cones. If you could teach the parents who you're having this meeting with, right? Like, you don't need to have a presentation. The parents, what they really want to see is like, what's your plan for helping our kids get better? And like, if my kid's not starting, how can I help them become a starter? And so if you spend the whole entire session you have with them, showing them how to play with their own kids, then it'll help. Not only will it help them, it's like a framework of, it'll help the players, it'll help the parents, and it'll help the coaches. And so lastly, the place that you can, right, what you can articulate to them is that through training, you're going to have through training, it's like there are some players on the team who are more advanced and some players who are less advanced. And so you're gonna start the most advanced players. And so through substitutions, you can create with a simple substitution plan, you could create a simple plan so that the players who are the most advanced, they start the game. You could bring the subs in the second half of the first half. The subs stay into the second half, and then you bring the starting players in for the second half of the second half. And with this simple routine, with this plan, you can elevate the gameplay of the whole team. So, what's the takeaway? The takeaway is, if you show up to the middle school, to like your school, and say, okay, this is my plan for this is my plan for this, that's okay, but on a deeper level, I feel like parents want to see not only the energy of the coach who's going to be taking care of their kids, but they want to, it's like a test. It's like, are you all in on our kids? And like, who am I dealing with as a coach? It's like, if you have a plan for their whole season, and if you can articulate